Good day, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. Poland pushes back hard when Trump claims Russia's drone raid could have been a mistake. Hundreds of Korean workers detained in Georgia flown home after ICE raid, and Hyundai projects delays. The Jeffrey Epstein 50th birthday scrapbook exposes connections with powerful names. Charlie Kirk murdered at a public event, suspect now in custody. American gun crisis is no longer theoretical. Plus, what this means for political violence, safety, and our country's soul. You guys really should stay to the end of this because I'm going to give you guys a very powerful breakdown of not only political violence, but gun violence in America. And Charlie Kirk is the example. Poland rejects Trump suggested that Russia's drone raid could have been a mistake, and Polish leadership insists that the drone incursions was intentional, not accidental. In my opinion, I will tend to agree with Poland on this one, not the president, because again, as I did a very breakdown of the location of Poland in conjunction with Russia. So here's Russia, this very large landmass to your top of your screen here. And then you have Ukraine, very small country that's bordered by Belarus. And then you have Poland. So Russia stated that they were aiming for the western hemisphere of Ukraine, the western region of Ukraine, which is in this area here. But the drones, the 19 drones that infiltrated Poland airspace landed in Lodz, Lodz, which is almost central Poland and very near their capital of Warsaw. So when I look at the close proximity of these drones, they're like almost 100 or plus 100 miles from, again, the target that they were supposed to hit. Now, even they had some faulty navigation software or systems, or the drones went haywire, or there was some sort of cataclysmic mistake that these drones, just had an issue. Because when I look at this, it almost seems deliberate, again, to test not only Poland, but the UN response to this. So I don't think this was accident by any means, that we can look at the evidence that's presented here. So again, I tend to agree with Poland, no less. All right. And over 300 South Korean workers detained in Georgia. ICE immigration raid happened at the Hyundai LG battery plant construction site. And now they have returned home following diplomatic pressure. The raid has also prompted calls for reform of visa systems and raised U.S.-South Korean relation tensions. And now they're stating at this point, they don't even know, because of these ICE raids at the Georgia battery plant delays, that construction plans may be 2 to 3 months delayed. And this is coming from the CEO. And many technical workers were detained, affecting project timeline. But they had reports of a lot of illegal immigrants and a lot of South Korean nationals with expired visas working at this plant. So is America wrong, or is America justified if the report is true? In my opinion, if the report is true, then America is justified. Now, if there was only maybe 1 or 2 visa that were expired, then those ICE agents should only detain those people with reports and evidence that they have to detain and possibly deport those Korean nationals and or illegal immigrants from other countries. But other than that, I don't see any wrong or foul unless the reports are incorrect and this was all just made up somehow for political theater. I digress. Now, Jeffrey Epstein. House committee releases Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday scrapbook from 2003, showing messages from high-profile figures, including Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, and UK diplomat Peter Mandelson. So this is a very bipartisan party that Epstein has had for his 50th birthday, and all these people allegedly signed inside this book. And the entries have raised new scrutiny about past associations. So I wonder, when it comes to American politics and having President Trump being in office, are they going to start to investigate or do some background digging on some of the associations that President Trump had with Epstein and possibly some of the actions. Okay. Right now, this is all alleges and allegations to a certain degree, but no one has any hardcore evidence because they tried to pass to release the Epstein files, but the GOP blocked it again. Now, could there be something in the Epstein files that is a threat to national security? Is there something in the Epstein files that could possibly be a threat to national security? Because do not forget, they had reports that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent or he was a Mossad informant. And now that we have a very powerful person in office by the way of President Trump, what if Trump is named and he's implicated in crimes against children and women? That is the question that I know a lot of people have, even on the right. See, for far too long, we've been having this battle politically, and this has led into political violence, what we're going to cover here later in the broadcast. Stay with me. I'm pretty sure you guys want to hear what I have to say, because a lot of this is going to be backed by evidence and truth and statistics. See, a lot of times when people get radicalized, they're being radicalized by influential people with a voice and who they tend to agree with because their subconscious bias. And these people get radicalized, and then we have created a coward culture in America. I don't want to get into the later of the broadcast right now, but I'm fired up, ladies and gentlemen. We have created a coward culture of guns, where people are unaliving, killing, murdering, and assassinate people based on what their views, whether they are slewing hate or not. But we're going to touch on it. But again, we cannot steer away from these Epstein files. We cannot steer away from it. It seems as though that the government is hiding something. Now, if it's somehow linked to national security, and by releasing the Epstein files, we're going to allow a lot of our neutral and a lot of our enemies know very pertinent information that could threaten American security, then I think the American people will understand. But because of the scrutiny and the forbiddance of these files and how long this has been going on, the American people may not even take that as an excuse as well. It seems as though they're fighting tooth and nail to prevent certain information from these Epstein files to be released. Even the victims stating that they're going to release what some people say an unofficial list. In my opinion, if it's coming from the victims and they're telling the truth, it will be in the official record. I just want you guys to think about that. Now, President Trump is honoring Charlie Kirk, conservative activist and co-founder of Turning Point USA. We understand that 2 days ago, he was fatally shot while speaking at Utah Valley University. They stated that they have the suspect in custody. And President Trump announces that with a high degree of certainty that this is the person who supposedly killed Charlie Kirk, and he's been apprehended. And law enforcement recovered the rifle believed used, and images were released. The suspect turned in by someone close. Investigations are still ongoing. And do not forget, they stated that they also have a palm print. So I'm pretty sure they're going to fingerprint this person. If it matches, then most likely this is the person who committed the crime. Okay. And they had a videotape of the shooting here of the rooftop at Utah Valley University.
If you look up to the top left, you'll see the building where the shooter was proned out in the top left corner. So here you see the suspect ran behind that upper building. He's going to come out on the right, moves to this far right corner. As he does, he's going to climb off the edge and then drop down to the ground. As he did that, he left some palm impressions. There's some smudges, some places we're looking to collect DNA. There's a shoe imprint where we believe the suspect is clearly identified as wearing Converse tennis shoes. Again, we'll replay that again so you can get another view of that. It's important to note his black t-shirt, his black pants, There appears to be some white on the soles of those Converse tennis shoes. Those are all identifiable items that we're looking for. In the stills that are going to follow this, you're going to see a very distinctive t-shirt with an American flag and appears to have an eagle on it. There's also a baseball cap with a triangle on it and a pair of sunglasses. All distinctive, all things that we would ask the public to look for and try to identify if they know someone who has those items, who has been seen wearing those items. We're looking for all that information. Here you see the suspect after dropping off the building. He moved around across this grassy area, around the parking lot. We're going to pan to the right. After he crosses the street, this is where he moves over into the wooded area. This is the video evidence that we utilize to track his movements and to locate that firearm in that wooded area following the discovery of this evidence. So here's the still photographs I mentioned. These have been enhanced. So these are slightly different than what we introduced earlier. Please pay close attention to the t-shirt. Like I said, very distinctive with that American flag and that eagle. The hat with the triangle and the sunglasses. The backpack as well. All identifying features that we're hoping the public can help us identify and lead us to this suspect. And again, there's a better picture of the hat with that triangle logo, and again, the t-shirt, blue jeans, and you get a good look at those Converse tennis shoes as well. We have pushed these out. We'll continue to push these out, and we just ask for the public's cooperation through the public, the tip.
So a lot of people's suspicion as far as the race of this person is correct. It seems as though that this is a white male. He could possibly be a white Hispanic, but nonetheless, he seems as though that he is a white male. But the reports have that the suspect is in custody, and so right now they're fingerprinting to match that of when he was trying, climbing down from the side of the building, as well as on the rifle itself. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we must have a very powerful discussion here, because for quite some time we have been really invading the conversation around gun rights, about the Second Amendment, about how the Constitution of America allows us to bear arms. And I think we really need to comb through this even more so than I've ever had before, because we have a lot of gun violence in America, and it comes from all demographics. It comes from all groups of people, but nobody really wants to face the true harm, the true tragedy, and some of the rights that the so-called Second Amendment gives us. And this is coming from the constitution.congress.gov, a well-regulated militia, meaning the National Guard in today's modern times, being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So the Constitution have given everyday citizens the right to bear arms. That is the way that the law is interpreted. But this was during a time where we had European invaders, even though these are descendants of the Europeans, but nonetheless, they came here, the New World, to start a new country that was different than Europe. And so instead of those Europeans that came over here to get away from the colonial powers, because British colonized America initially, and then the citizens, or not yet the citizens, but the people who were trying to live in a new free world away from the British Empire, took up guns and fought against the British colonial soldiers. That is why this is in our amendment. So America could never be invaded again by land where the people could not be able to fight back. Whether it be the National Guard, the reserves, active duty, regular citizens can then defend themselves, their communities, their homes from foreign invaders on our land. But America, because of our gun culture, we buy guns to protect ourselves mostly from who? Other Americans. And that is the problem. And by doing so, we have created a coward culture. A lot of people do not want to face this. Now, the Charlie Kirk shooting is being framed by many commentators and public figures as another stark example of America's gun violence and political violence problems. We've had all sorts of political figures to be assassinated or the attempted assassination, like President Donald Trump, the Minnesota political figures. We've had a lot of people, political figures, that things have been thrown at them. They've been threatened. All because citizens and other people do not agree with their political rhetoric or their political side. For far too long, we have the right against the left, the right against the left, the right against the left. And people are being radicalized by political influencers and media influencers to take it upon themselves and kill, murder, and assassinate people. Why is this important to Black Americans? Because we have a very strong voice in this country as well. And we have been persecuted, we've been killed and assassinated because of our voice. And I'm trying to figure out, have a lot of, not just our past leaders, but even our present leaders who speak truth to power, have they been given the honor in memory of the President of the United States of America? I'm not just talking about President Trump. I'm talking about President Biden, President Barack Obama, President Bill Clinton. Have we received some of the same accolades, some of the same remembrance? Because President Trump states here, I hereby order that the flag of the United States should be flown at half-staff at the White House, upon all public buildings and grounds, at all military posts and naval stations, on all naval vessels of the federal government in the District of Columbia, and throughout the United States and its territories, and possession until sunset of September 14th. I also direct that the flag should be flown at half-staff for the same length of time at all United States embassies, and that's around the world, by the way, legislation, consular office, and other facilities abroad, including all military facilities and naval vessels and stations. When have you ever seen anyone else be propped up on such a high stage where we had Vice President J.D. Vance escort the casket of Charlie Kirk? When have you seen that ever? This is what you call political theater. They're taking Charlie Kirk's death and making him a martyr, which is going to radicalize more people to do harm. They're using this young man, people as the likes of Steve Bannon, yes, Alex Jones, are radicalizing more people to go out and do harm, whether it be political figures or non-political figures, based upon your stance. This is what I was stating yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, that people are being killed simply based upon their views. No matter if they are slowing lies and hate, as I stated, if we want to be civil, if we want to have a sense of decorum, you must debate and debunk them with evidence, statistics, and truth. America has a gun problem. And Charlie Kirk is the what? Let's cut straight through the noise. America doesn't just have a gun problem. America is defined by a gun problem. And Charlie Kirk is just the latest example. Here's the hard truth, because Kirk, a man with bodyguards, police presence, and security scanners at his events, still became the target of an assassination attempt. That's not random. That's a mirror reflecting who we are, a country that believes guns are the answer to fear, when they really become the instrument of our destruction. I want you guys to really think about all these other European countries. Because I told you, I believe America is a European country, just here in America. Okay? We don't call ourselves European because we made a new country, but these are the descendants of Europeans. We created a gun culture based upon the Second Amendment of the United States of America. And anytime someone talks about restricting or limiting guns in America. Take your hands off my guns. This is my Second Amendment right. It doesn't matter who gets murdered, who gets killed, who gets alive. We still want all these military grade weapons in people's hands. Well, what guns would you restrict? Truthfully speaking, ladies and gentlemen, they said that a shotgun is the best home defense weapon versus a 45 caliber or M4 or A4 or AK-47. America has had a gun problem for quite some time, but nobody wants to relinquish their guns. As I stated before, we have created a coward culture because at first, Americans bought guns to fight foreign invaders. James Madison and the Federalist 46 even argue that armed militias could stand against tyrants. That's why we bought those guns originally. That's why those guns were issued out to the public for foreign invaders and tyrants. But today, people aren't just stockpiling AR-15s to scare off redcoats, those British soldiers that were here occupying America at the time they made the 13 colonies. They're buying them because they're terrified of each other. We buy guns because we are terrified and scared of each other. We don't look at it that way. We look at it, we're buying guns for protection. We're buying guns to go hunt. We buy guns for sport. In that case, everyone is walking around with guns. So someone who's mentally ill, someone who is emotionally unstable, instead of using your dukes, instead of putting up your set, instead of handling things like men used to do, hand-to-hand combat, we have to pull out a gun. More times than not, people are not being killed in hand-to-hand combat. Well, Blacklogic, most people don't know how to fight. Then they need to learn. We need to start, I'm going to say it, we need to start having very restrictive gun laws in America if we want culture in America to change when it comes to guns. Because we have a lot of cowards out here. I don't care if they're hillbillies in the hills or YNs in Baltimore, Chicago, or how we want to label these things. We have a coward culture where no one is willing to go in the street, go in the backyard, go in the front yard, and go man to man, woman to woman, whatever you want to say, and actually duke it out, fight it out, handshake, or walk away. We don't want to do that. We rather take a gun because we're cowards. Because you have a gun, then I need a gun because I need to level the playing field. And now that a political pundit, a political media personality, a political media influencer like Charlie Kirk, who was for the Second Amendment and all the freedoms that it gives you when it comes to guns, have been killed by someone that resembles his skin tone and his race by using a gun, a high-powered bolt-action rifle. This is coward culture that we live in, ladies and gentlemen. Instead of fixing poverty, inequality, and untreated trauma, we reach for the trigger. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz in Loaded, A Disarming History of the Second Amendment, which is a book that you guys is a really good read. Again, that book is Loaded, A Disarming History of the Second Amendment, reminds us that America's gun culture was born from settler colonial fear of indigenous people, fear of enslaved Africans. That same DNA is alive today, only now the enemy is your neighbor in the Walmart parking lot. We have all these mass shooters that come out, load themselves up, write a manifesto. Some of them are racially charged. Some of them are politically charged. Anytime someone writes a manifesto, it has to deal with religion, race, or politics. These are freaking cowards. Instead of being educated, instead of want to have civil decorum and debates or even arguments. They would rather go out and purchase a rifle, purchase handguns, and incite harm and destruction on the public of American citizens. But you guys gonna still fight for your gun rights, right? See, America has a gun problem, and Charlie Kirk is the what? What is Charlie Kirk? Charlie Kirk is the example. America has a gun problem, and Charlie Kirk is the example. I want you guys to look around at concerts, campuses, churches, political rallies. They all look like war zones. Metal detectors, body scanners, and armed guards. We normalize this theater of safety while ignoring the absurd question at the center of it all. What type of gun is good enough to feel safe in America? What type of gun? Why do everyday citizens need an AR-15? Why do American citizens need automatic rifles? We do not. Oh, well, the redcoats come again. Europe is not coming to invade America. We're all allies now. All these white nations are allies with the exception of Russia. I want you guys to really comb through that. Everyday citizens don't need AR-15. Everyday citizens don't need high-powered rifles. And can I be truthful? It's not that I'm anti-Second Amendment, but it needs to be said. We need very strict, regulated gun laws. And if it was up to me, I'm telling you right now, and here's my disclaimer. I am not a liberal. I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I am not conservative. Just as this my thoughts of how I feel. Because we really need to start speaking truth to power and not just make that a zinger. Let's not make truth to power a zinger. Let's actually speak truth to power. In my opinion, if you're not law enforcement, if you're not retired law enforcement, security guard with training, you don't need a gun. You don't need a gun. But there's history in America. The Second Amendment was actually written to arm citizens to fight back against redcoats who were trying to colonize America and make this another territory of the British Empire. But now we have all sorts of technological weaponry and systems and anti-this and anti-that. Regular citizens don't even need guns. Look at all the European nations that don't allow their citizens to have guns. Now, granted, there's probably like 3 or 4 European countries that actually allow their citizens to have guns, but they have very limited and very strict and very regulated gun laws in their country. In America, people are so innovative with so much ingenuity. They would take that AR-15 that is a semi-action rifle and they make it automatic. They make bump stocks and all sorts of different apparatuses to make it fully automatic. We have people in these little dungeons in their man caves and these silos and dug out bunkers making their own weapons and making their own bullets because apocalypse now. This is coward culture. Everybody is walking around with a gun. As soon as you get into a heated debate, even road rage, we've seen people get shot because someone cut them off on the highway. Is that worth your life? Somebody cut you off. Everyone's fine. Now, you shouldn't have did that. Could have caused an accident. But you now get out of your car because you're so enraged. You're so upset. You pull out your firearm and you take their life. You don't care who that person is connected to. You don't care if that person has a family because you are emotionally unstable and you have the right to bear arms. You go ahead and just start killing people. Freaking cowards. I said it. freaking cowards. Oh, we love the Second Amendment. It gives the right to bear arms because if we ever invaded again, when has America been invaded? When? Let me think. So was it 1775? When did America become America? When was America constructed? I'm gonna look it up so we all can see it at the same time. This is outright crazy. Because when you think about it, this came back July 4th, 1776. That's why we celebrated Independence Day when America. But let me ask you this: when was America invaded? Because as I'm going to show you here very quickly what occurred and why we, say to the Constitution and things of that nature. Hold on. Colonial period, 1607 to 1775. European powers, primarily Great Britain, established settlements and colonies in North America, with the first lasting English settlement at Jamestown, Virginia in 1607. The American Revolution, 1775 to 83. The 13 colonies fought against British rule. We no longer have the 13 colonies because the 13 colonies were really constructed by the British Empire here in America. We have a coward culture when it comes to guns. And believe it or not, a lot of this coward culture came from Europe, by the way. Yeah. A lot of the coward culture came from Europe, by the way. Remember, they would like distinguished gentlemen, the way that they handle their differences of people being aggrieved. They will take one round of a handgun, walk 10 paces, walk 20 paces, turn around and shoot themselves. Those are cowards. Whether you're aimed and trained with a firearm to shoot straight center mass, or you're just firing and you're being lucky. But when you go hand-to-hand combat with somebody, that shows the true physical prowess of a man. That shows the true prowess of a woman. And you guys may not agree with me. That's fine. That's fine. Because you have been entrenched, you have been radicalized, you have been influenced, you have been manipulated to think that guns are great for America. But we have so many damn statistics that show us that hundreds of people each and every year are getting killed by guns. And by the way, I have a clip here from Charlie Kirk talking about, the Second Amendment and how if we really want to stop deaths in America, people should stop driving because 50,000 people get killed on the road. That's a fallacy. That's a false equivalence to make such an example of driving and guns. Let me back this up. What the data shows about gun deaths in the U.S. Nearly 47,000 people died of gun-related injuries in the United States in 2023. 47,000 people of gun death. Now let's take the guns off the street. How many deaths do we have? Oh, well, if we don't have guns, people are just going to use knives. Okay. You're going to have to be really skilled with a knife. Really skilled, and people are going to start training with knives. Okay, I got it. But you're going to have to be really skilled with a knife. I guarantee this number will be cut in half if they stop allowing everyday citizens who we don't do extensive background and medical checks on them. This will be cut in half. We have young people out here writing manifestos. A lot of these people are under the age of 30. Look at Kyle Rittenhouse. I'm just going to take a gun. The day prior, he was scoping out a shopping mall that people were stealing goods. And he said, if I had my gun, I would shoot them. And the next day he came, he shot some people. Cowards. Cowards. We don't want to call American citizens cowards, but they are. And as a culture, we are. We act as if we cannot exist without guns in America. But yet again, we have many people, women, men, and children dying every year behind gun violence. And you had people like Charlie Kirk speaking certain rhetoric. Well, Black Americans kill the most people. We kill our own people just like white people kill their own people. We've developed a gun culture in America where we have all these gangs. We have black gangs, white gangs, Hispanic gangs, and Asian gangs that commit all these crimes, and they're using guns and they're killing one another. Cartels usually kill other cartel members, and then some innocent people get killed. Black gangs in all these different places, they usually kill themselves, and some innocent people get killed along the way. The majority of mass shooters, majority of people who committed assassinations in America have been white. And it really doesn't matter. I'm not just depicting the certain types of crime that the different demographics actually do, but the point of the matter is guns. Oh, you're being anti-gun. No, I'm being anti the use of guns and how people have been protecting guns. Oh, guns don't kill people. People kill people with guns. That's true. How do we stop having people to kill people with guns? You limit, you restrict, and you stop guns in America. Well, guns is big business. There are going to be a lot of small shops, a lot of mom and pop shops, a lot of our American businesses derive around guns. Well, we're going to have to sell them to other countries. If not, America is going to get worse, because now you have a prominent figure like Charlie Kirk who have been killed, and automatically people on the right, media influencers like Steve Bannon and Alex Jones, are now radicalizing more people. And you have people on X, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube come out and talk about they're not going to stand for this. They're going to do something about it. And that's going to lead right into political violence. Because no one is going up to a political figure and punching them in the face. Oh, that would be the manly thing to do. You would just go to jail for assault. You might do a year. You probably even do less than a year. But no, we want to unalive that person. We want to take that person from their family. We want their kids to be affected. We want their aunts, uncles, cousins. We want their friends, all their whole entire entourage of people that surround them to be affected, because we're freaking cowards. And this has nothing to do with showing empathy towards Charlie Kirk. Not at all. This is about gun culture in America, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I like to show evidence and proof. The last one came from Pew Research. This is coming from the CDC. In 2022, there were more than 48,000 firearm-related deaths in the United States, according to mortality data. That's about 132 people dying from a firearm-related injury each day. 132 people dying from gun violence a day. Well, Blacklogic, a lot of those deaths came from the black community with those gangs, those YNs in Baltimore and Chicago, in Memphis. What about all the mass shootings? They damn near equate to the same amount of mortalities in America. Look like an equal playing field to me, is it not? That's the problem. We keep making the gun issue in America black and white, right and left, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal. Ladies and gentlemen, it does not matter. We've been fighting on this issue. They've been fighting for this issue for quite some time. We have a gun issue. We have a gun problem in America. Do I have guns myself? Absolutely. Why do I have guns in my house? Is it for sport? Is it for fun? Is it for protection? D, all of the above. I don't know if my house will ever be broken in, and most likely if somebody breaks inside my house, I would like to believe, because guns are legal in America and anybody can really get a gun if they wanted to, that I would need a gun to level the playing field. It's not like someone's coming in your house with a knife. Someone's coming to your house with a bat. Oh, I could take a bat. Block. You learn that in Taekwondo, karate, and Kung Fu. I took a little bit of all of them. Even capoeira, the Brazilian form, the Brazilian martial arts. So if somebody trying to hit you with something across your head or hit you with a bat, you hit them with the meaty part. You don't use your bone part. Easy block. But nonetheless, I digress. I'm just looking at all the related deaths here in America that's dealing with gun violence. We love our guns, do we not? Take your hands off my guns. I'm a red-blooded American. Every day, 125 people in the U.S. are killed with guns, and more than 200 are shot and wounded. The effects of gun violence in America extend far beyond these casualties. Gun violence shapes the lives of millions who witness it. Know someone who was shot or live in fear of the next shooting. Of course, I know someone who was shot. Of course, I know someone who was killed by guns. America has a gun problem, and Charlie Kirk is the unfortunate example. And some people would like to say he got his just due. This is not the call for this. Whether it be a Glock, because what type of gun is good enough to feel safe in America? A Glock, an AR-15, a sniper rifle, bolt action? The logic is an endless arm race with yourself. And the RAND Corporation provided it. More civilian gun ownership doesn't reduce crime. Again, more civilian gun ownership doesn't reduce crime. Meanwhile, the CDC confirmed that in 2021, nearly 49,000 Americans died from firearms. 49,000, folks. The highest number ever recorded. That wasn't foreign enemies. That was us. Oh, we got these guns because during the time, the Redcoats, the British Empire, and the 13 colonies were trying to expand across America. And they were trying to colonize America, but we came in for a better way of life. So we took up arms and we fought off the Redcoats. We allowed those Africans and those indigenous Black people, as well as the Red Mongolian natives, to take up guns against the Redcoats so we can eradicate them and push them back from our country. From the 1600s to 1775, we've been fighting them, and we won. We gained our independence July 4th, 1776. And from that moment on, America started a culture of cowardice. Now we need guns to protect ourselves from other Americans. When you guys look at the Wild Wild West and all the movies they're in, one of my favorite movies with Clint Eastwood, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, a bunch of scoundrelly scalawags was in that movie, fighting against one another. And we've popularized guns. We have glorified guns. We have glamorized guns. But no one is thinking about the people. We are protecting weapons that was used and its purpose of being created for war. Guns were essentially created for war, for battles, for skirmishes against different nations to protect and to invade one another. They were never meant for regular day citizens to have guns. Oh, you stepped on my lawn, or you're Black, you live next to me, or you Jewish, you live next to me, or you white, you live next to me. I should kill you. I should murder you. I should assassinate you. I should unalive you because of your race, because of your color, because of your belief, because of your viewpoints, because of your opinions, because of your rhetoric. Guns. I know a lot of people are not going to like this, but the truth is in the pudding. Or in this case, the truth is in the statistics. How can we stop gun violence if we continue to have guns? That's the only question I have. America has a gun problem, and Charlie Kirk is the what? What is Charlie Kirk to this, ladies and gentlemen? We're going to listen in and find out right now.
Also be real. we must be honest with the population. Having an armed citizenry comes with a price. And that is part of liberty. Driving comes with a price. 50,000 people die on the road every year. That's a price. You get rid of driving, you'd have 50,000 less auto fatalities. But we have decided that the benefit of driving, speed, accessibility, mobility, having products, services, is worth the cost of 50,000 people dying on the road. Wow. So we need to be very clear that you're not going to get gun deaths to zero. It will not happen. Right. You can significantly reduce them through having more fathers in the home, yes, by having more armed guards in front of schools.
I want you guys to really listen into this because he's defending guns. He's defending the Second Amendment. He's defending gun culture in America. He said there were more fathers in the home, then we wouldn't have the amount of gun violence that we have. If we had armed security guards. Why do we need armed security guards? Because we have a very large amount of guns in America. That's the reason why. Now, I want you guys to think about these statistics. The U.S. has 120 guns for every 100 residents. This is the only country on earth with more guns than people. And that came from a very small arms survey. We glorify a gun culture here in America. And Pew Research stated that 54% of Americans say gun violence is a very big problem. So over half of Americans, according to the research, believes that America has a very big problem when it comes to guns. And then the Washington Post stated that more than 386,000 students have been exposed to gun violence at school since the Columbine. An entire generation's raised under lockdown drills. Also in 2023, nearly 47,000 people, as I stated before, died from gun injuries and over half were suicides. What is the economic cost? Tens of billions in medical care, lost productivity, and broken futures. And still, the answer we're given is more guns. We need more guns. We need armed security guards. Everybody needs a gun. Now, just yesterday, I was reading a report how HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, were on lockdown. Why? Because, again, you had media influencers, conservative influence, political pundits, political conservatives coming out spewing all sorts of rhetoric that are anti-liberal. Automatically, a lot of people in America believe that all black people are Democrats. All black people are liberals. And that is so far from the truth. It's totally inaccurate. You got your coons like Officer Tatum. You got other people in the space, Candace Owen, that consider themselves conservatives. And I'm just naming two prominent figures that most people may know. Thomas Sowell is another. Ben Carson is another. These are all conservative, black conservatives. But it will have you to believe that all black people are conservatives. Now, maybe those people may be okay and protected, but now you're going to have people who have been radicalized, influenced, and manipulated to go do harm to people who are not even affiliated politically with either party. You have people going out trying to kill political figures on the right and the left. And unfortunately, this young man had to lose his life behind it because of his rhetoric, because of some of the very hateful, bigotry, prejudice, and racist things that he stated. He should not have been killed behind that. So much of freedom of speech. Now, some people will say, well, you have freedom of speech, but you do not have the freedom of consequence. Consequence should not bend someone to assassinate, kill, or murder you based on what you think you believe or what you was paid to say or the hateful rhetoric that you speak. As I stated before, if we want to be civil or we want to be true American citizens, then there's a certain of decorum in civil and diplomatic things and debates and sessions and events and functions that we can hold to have these talks. Because a lot of people, they know the truth. Let's make it black. A lot of people know the truth of Black Americans in this country. But because they're anti-Black, they try to flip and skew the numbers to have other people believe that Black people are the problem of violence in America. And we know that's far from the truth. There's a lot of people who are white and non-Black that knows the history, that knows the present of all the violence we have in America that doesn't come from the Black community. You have people tell you all around the world that Black people are some of the most loving, Black Americans, that is, are some of the most loving and accepting people in the world. And the only thing they can do is point the finger at 1 or 2% of Black Americans who deal in gang violence. 1 to 2% of a population. Oh, no, there's more than that. See, we can feel however we feel. But we're going to base things off research and statistics and metrics. Then now we're fighting against the truth. This is the problem that we have, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Charlie Kirk, he surrounded himself with law enforcement and private security. And still, the gun found him. That's the truth America refuses to face. There is no absolute protection in a nation that is drowning in firearms. Do not make Charlie Kirk a martyr for more gun violence in America. Make him the example of why gun laws in America should change and be restricted and be limited. Do not make him a martyr. Make him an example. Because whether you are a politician that was on stage, a kid in school, or a parent just dropping off your child at a daycare, the barrel of a gun can still reach you. There was this sociologist, Jonathan Metzl. He wrote a book called In Dying of Whiteness. Look that up, In Dying of Whiteness by Jonathan Metzl. I think you spell his last name Metzl. And he shows how gun culture, especially among white conservatives, have fused with their identity. People would literally die sooner than give up an AR-15. They would just rather die. You take my gun, you might as well kill me. And do not get me wrong, this is not disconservative, by the way. He just wrote the book on how conservatives view guns. But there is a lot of Democrat and liberals who are like this as well. Yeah, let's make this bipartisan, because this is a bipartisan problem. They act as if giving up feels like giving up their freedom. You take my guns, that's my freedom. I don't have any damn freedom, you take my guns. And that's how deep this sickness runs. And don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen, I know some of the counter points and some of the rebuttals that people would like to make. What about self-defense stories? Because a lot of many gun owners say they keep guns to protect their families, but studies have often shown that defensive guns, that using a gun in defense is rare and the benefits are often overstated. What about constitutional rights as given to us by the Second Amendment? Yes, our rights are real, but rights in law have always come with limits, restrictions, regulations, and public safety. They fail to mention that, don't they? Fear of government and tyranny. Because again, you have a lot of Democrats, you have a lot of liberals stating that Donald Trump is trying to impose authoritarianism here in America. So a lot of times this is often cited. This is why I was talking about Democrats and liberals believes that they want these freedom of guns as well because of ionic figures like President Trump. But bodyguards and armed crowds don't keep you safer. They escalate insecurity. Because I've been here a lot of conservative politicians, mostly females, saying they're fearful for their life, that they used to carry their gun. They stopped carrying their gun. They may start carrying their gun again. And then mental health and individual pathology versus structural realities. We need both. Higher rates of gun access plus fewer safety measures plus cultural acceptance of armed defense equals more risks. Higher rates of gun access plus fewer safety measures plus cultural acceptance of armed defense equals more risk for everyday citizens, not just people who are in political spaces. A lot of these, young white men under the age of 40 who have written manifestos, they're writing the N-word on their rifles, immigrants, blacks, all Jews, all these things. They've been radicalized. Or even when they assassinated some of those Minnesota officials, I believe it was the governor or the assistant governor, something like that. I forgot the positions, but nonetheless, the wife and the husband was assassinated. It kind of makes me think of Australia, the down under, the country down under. Because after the 1996 Port Arthur massacre, Australia passed strict gun laws and saw death drop by 90%. Okay, you guys not listening. I'll have to say it again for the people in the back. Australia, after the 1996 Port Arthur massacre, they passed strict gun laws and saw death drop by 90%. And believe me when I tell you this is not speculation. That's evidence that stricter gun laws work. But America, we export our violence worldwide as if this culture is something to be proud of. Our gun culture in America is nothing to be proud of. And yet Charlie Kirk tragedy isn't just personal, it's symbolic. Don't make him a martyr, make him an example. He argued loudly for guns as freedom, but became trapped in the same web of fear and denial as the rest of us. His death shows that even inside the fortress, scanners, guards, walls, safety is an illusion. Because when bodyguards and checkpoints become the default, like you have to have that everywhere, when we live every day assuming attack, that's not freedom. That's prison with extra steps. You're walking around with guns because you fear for your life or somebody else with a gun. You're not free. You're living in a mental asylum in public because you're fearful. You got your gun on you. What did he say to me? Is he going to pull his gun first? Oh, I should pull mine. Let me shoot him. Charlie Kirk should not be made a martyr. People should not go out and start killing people based on their views because of this young man. Because of this young man, they should not do that. They should make him the example of reason why we need very restrictive gun laws in America. And we have evidence, not speculation, not rhetoric, not conjecture. We have evidence, as I stated before, what occurred in Australia. By restricting and imposing those gun laws, 90% of gun deaths decreased. It decreased by 90%. But for some reason, we don't want to do that here in America. We have all this gun violence in America coming from all different demographics and races. They keep saying that guns are not the problem, that the people are. But for somehow the people can get guns and they use guns to hurt people, to wound people, to kill people. But we don't want to talk about that, do we not?
We should have an honest and clear reductionist view of gun violence, but we should not have a utopian one. You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. Have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. You won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. Nobody talks like this. They live in a complete alternate universe. So then how do you reduce? Very simple. People say, oh, Charlie, how do you stop school shootings? I don't know. How did we stop shootings at baseball games?
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't agree with probably 90% of what Charlie Kirk has stated. Some things I heard him speak about, I did agree, but I don't agree with 90% of what he said. He just said, how do we stop shootings at baseball games? Because they asked him, how do you stop shootings, mass shootings at schools? Come on now. You see what I'm talking about? People are losing their life, and he has lost his life behind gun violence, behind someone not with agreeing with. And a lot of people, well, he was radicalized, he was a liberal, he was this, he was that, and the reason for this, and that has nothing to do with guns. It has everything to do with guns. He was 200 yards away on a rooftop and took this man's life. And if he didn't have a gun, how would he went about harming Charlie Kirk? He would have to have a knife. He would have to plant a bomb. He would have to take some classes or chat GPT how to create a bomb. He would have to do so much more in order to unalive and murder Charlie Kirk. But because he had a gun, he can be 200 yards away and take his life. America, we have created a coward culture. And anyone mentally unstable, anyone emotionally unstable, anyone who disagrees with your views and viewpoints, anyone who doesn't like the color shade of your skin, they don't like your phenotype, they don't like anything about you, they can just kill you. And they don't even have to be in the same room. That's what we've done here in America. So again, what type of gun is good enough? In my opinion, the answer is none. Because in a nation where every problem is met with a weapon, the problem never gets solved. Guns don't unite us. They divide us. They turn citizens into suspects, neighbors into threats. Until America decides that life is worth more than firepower, we will keep burying bodies, building scanners, and clinging to illusions of safety that never keeps us safe. So everybody's going to need a bodyguard. Everybody is going to need a security guard. Every church, every school, every event, every function are going to need armed security. We claim our courage here in America. We claim our freedom here in America. Those days are hundreds of years old. But what happens when the fear we carry becomes bigger than the hope we live for? There's this so-called American dream. And the last time I checked, gun violence or being killed by a gun wasn't part of that dream. Charlie Kirk's death is not just an example, it's a warning. It's a reminder that America isn't under attack from the outside. America is under attack from itself. Do not make this man a martyr where people, different demographics of people, based upon their race, creed, religion, color, and political views, will be killed, harmed, wounded, and shot. Make Charlie Kirk the example of why gun laws in America needs to be very strict and very limited. I don't care if you agree, but until, we're going to continue to have deaths in America because of guns.